Our guest, Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills. First, before I tell you about what's going on this weekend, I first met him when he neglected to bring me a roast beef sandwich to the former WAF studios, but he brought one for Mistress Carrie, and I will forever hold that against him. I'm hoping if I go to the Silver Screen Con this weekend that maybe there'll be a roast beef sandwich available, possibly.
There will be all the roast beef sandwiches that you need, sir. I will make sure of it.
Actually, in all seriousness, how close is the DoubleTree there in Danvers? How close is it to Supreme Roast Beef?
I believe it's about, I timed it out of my watch because I didn't want to have the convention in a far proximity from Supreme. But yeah. I think I can do it in 7 minutes.
Okay, that's good. Because I'm definitely gonna have a 3-way when I'm in Danvers this weekend.
You have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Ice Nine Kills, you guys are horror themed for people that aren't familiar. They're a band that writes a lot of their music about horror. You are one of the biggest horror movie fans I know, and I got to ask you, what came first, the idea for the con or the Silver Scream albums? Like, did you think up the con before the albums came out, or would this come out of making the albums?
Definitely thought of the albums first, but being such a horror fan, growing up in Massachusetts, going to places like Rock and Shock, that was the first convention I ever went to. And from even farther back in the day in the Boston area, Spooky World was one of my favorite places ever. And for those of you who remember the original location in Berlin, Mass., that was really like the first time ever that you could meet like a horror celebrity, from what I understand, outside of like the Fangoria convention that they had. But, that was the first time I met people like, Linda Blair from The Exorcist, and Kane Hodder, who plays Jason, the only actor to play Jason more than once. And Kane is going to be at the Silver Scream Con. So I met him probably in 1993 or 1994. So, such a full circle moment to have someone like that. But yeah, the album came first, and the convention was something I thought of later, and it just seemed to make perfect sense to do it here in Massachusetts.
You mentioned Rock and Shock, and people that aren't familiar with that was a really great horror convention here in Worcester. So much like that convention, you mentioned Kane Hodder. You're going to have a lot of guests that people can meet, talk horror, get pictures with. What are some of the guests that you got coming up this weekend?
So not only Kane, who's famous for Friday the 13th, but also the original Jason Voorhees, if you remember from the 1980 film, at the end. And in my opinion, one of the scariest jump scares in movie history, when the boy jumps out of the lake and drags the girl into the lake. He's going to be there. We have the original Michael Myers from the Carpenter 1978 classic, which is so insane to me because in so many ways Halloween started it all for me. We have Skeet from Scream, the original killer, Billy Loomis. He's a great actor. We have a ton of people from the Welcome to Horrorwood, Silver Scream music videos that we do, like Bill Moseley from all the Rob Zombie movies. We have even some comedians or people that fall into the more of the comedic side of film, like Tom Arnold. Remember him from True Lies with Arnold Schwarzenegger. We've got a couple of the Super Troopers guys. We've got, we've just got a ton of people, and it's going to be a really exciting convention.
And everyone's going to have a chance to meet them and get pictures and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah, we've got a lot of photo ops available. People will be doing signings all weekend. We've got a number of panels where we have our friend Ryan Downey hosting. And he's such a fantastic interviewer and journalist. I think there's going to be some really great questions that maybe don't always get asked. It's going to be a great time, man.
The website's great. People can go to silverscreamcon.com. Tons of information up there, including information about if you are a person who loves cosplay and loves to dress up. And you're encouraging that, right?
Absolutely. It's just going to be like a nice little Halloween extravaganza right at the end of August. Perfect timing.
You mentioned some movies already, and you said the first Halloween was the one that did it for you. Are there movies you're so into it, you do it with your music, and you're exposed to it so much? Are there any movies that still scare you?
Any movies that still scare me? I would say there's a little bit of a lesser-known film called When a Stranger Calls Back. It's a sequel to the more well-known When a Stranger Calls. But this one in particular came out as a made-for-TV movie, I believe, on Showtime in 1993, and revolves around at least the beginning scene with a girl getting a series of disturbing phone calls, and for whatever reason, that movie still holds up as extremely eerie, extremely creepy, and I highly recommend it. Make sure you watch When a Stranger Calls Back, but make sure it's the 1993 version.
The one that still scares me is The Exorcist. To this day, I still get creeped out by that. But there is another movie, a more recent one with Ethan Hawke called Sinister. I don't know if you've seen that one. To me, personally, that is the movie that scares me the most. I think it's because it involves children and children murdering adults. As a parent, I'm waiting for that moment every day, actually. But that, to me, that's a movie that still it really, for real, scares me, as a guy in his 50s, like where I have to keep the light on when I go to bed, scared. I don't know if you've seen that.
I have seen that movie, and I have to agree with you. That movie was very disturbing, especially like the footage he finds, when he finds that box in the attic with all the kills. But I don't want to ruin the movie. But for me, the ending of it kind of ruined the whole thing.
Really?
But that was the part that kind of it went too supernatural. I wanted it to be more of an actual murderer, but I do agree with you. There's some really unsettling material in that movie.
So is that scarier? Do you think that makes a scarier film? Is if it's kind of based more on a human element as opposed to like a demon or a ghost or something like that?
I think generally that's the rule of thumb for me. But on the other hand, there are some supernatural movies that really are very unsettling to me. And to me, it always has to be the ones that are that seem like this is real. And a movie that kind of dances that line really nicely is like the first Paranormal Activity. To me, that's like, you don't believe in demons or ghosts or supernatural elements, but that movie was shot in such a way that it really did seem like, oh my God, this could actually be happening.
And I've been watching this show with my daughter it's on Netflix, The Sandman. I don't know if you've had time to watch that, but that's a pretty damn scary TV show. I highly recommend that once the dust settles from Silver Scream Con, if you have time to watch it. It's pretty scary.
I would love to. I've never heard of it.
Yeah, it's fairly new. I highly recommend that one if you're looking for something new.
I will put that on the list, absolutely.
So also at Silver Scream Con, I mean, if you are a horror collector, there's going to be a lot of vendors there and stuff like that too, right?
Absolutely. We have a really cool sort of monster midway, and there's going to be a ton of really custom kind of DIY made shirts and stuff, not just from like the name brands of horror shirts. Also, there's going to be places like Trick or Treat Studios, which, they have incredible masks. Black Craft Clothing is going to be there. We have my own clothing line, Cleaver, and some local local haunts from the area, like the Nightmare Gallery, which is a fantastic wax museum in Salem. They're going to have a booth. It's going to be awesome, and obviously all the Ice Nine Kills trinkets you could dream of.
And then there is a like Rock and Shock. There is a musical element to Silver Scream Con too, right? I mean, you guys are playing, but I think that show is sold out at this point. Is that right?
Yeah, we're playing a show as part of the convention at the Cabot Theater in Beverly on Saturday night, but unfortunately that has been sold out. I think it's a smaller venue, so I think it's sold out in the first couple of days. But we're going to be performing there with our friends in Twisted and First Jason, which is another great band that is actually fronted by the original Jason Voorhees.
Really? All right. Well, Spencer Charnas from Ice Nine Kills, thank you very much for taking the time. Starting this Friday, it's Silver Scream Con, all right, and it's at the Doubletree Boston North Shore in Danvers. That's at 50 Ferncroft Road, and it's not far from Supreme's Roast Beef, which I highly suggest you get a sandwich there if you are headed that way. That's my favorite North Shore roast beef. So thank you very much for taking the time, man. Good luck with this first one. I hope we see more in the future.
Thanks so much for having me, man. I hope we see you at the convention. Roast beef sandwiches on me.